Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life, and this is part three to the series that I wanted to make leading up to the Analyst Day for all the carriers. T-Mobile's video was first, Verizon's was second, and AT&T's is third. What's interesting, as I make this video, AT&T gave an update to its shareholders yesterday. So I don't anticipate them to present anything else on Friday that they didn't already discuss yesterday. So it is very, very important that the analysts ask questions, the right questions, to get more information out of AT&T beyond what we already know. So what did they discuss yesterday? They talked about pretty much being on track of hitting the guidance that they gave in the Q4 earnings call. So they're still going to hit their 2% increase on revenue on wireless. They're still set to increase the EBITDA margins. They're still set to even better the churn, even better than what we saw from them in Q4. So those are some of the numbers that they gave during the update yesterday to the shareholders. I will leave this article in the description down below so you guys can check that out. Now, what questions would I hope that the analysts ask the carrier, AT&T, on Friday? I hope they ask them, when do they plan on starting C-band? I don't know if I said that in the Verizon video, but the analysts should ask the same for Verizon as well. When does that rollout start? How aggressive will it be? And if it is very important on the priority scale, are they going to increase CapEx next year? I hope we get questions along those lines. Is AT&T or Verizon going to be able to answer all of them in detail? Likely not. I don't know if they can give you an outlook all the way into next year on a CapEx increase, on a capital increase. We don't know. I think they're going to have to wait more as the year plays out to see if they can hit most of the metrics. And then potentially in Q4 of this year, usually when they give the guidance for the following year, is when they potentially announce an increase in the capital investment. Now, so I'm hoping some of those questions are asked by some of the analysts. AT&T's conference is Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So early, just like T-Mobile's. Verizon's is late at night. So again, I don't anticipate Verizon's being very long. I do expect AT&T's to be pretty lengthy, and we already know by a T-Mobile announcement theirs is going to be 3 hours. So how does this play out for AT&T? I still stand by my opinion. I still think AT&T is best positioned to handle what they need to handle. Why do I say that? Because the monetization that T-Mobile and Verizon are trying to create through this spectrum that they purchased. Verizon with C-band, and T-Mobile, they purchased Sprint, but they technically just purchased it for the spectrum. That monetization that they're trying to create with the home internet, AT&T's been doing that already. They've been offering home internet. They've been getting that monetization. They've been upgrading the fiber. And they're aggressively expanding it even more this year. So some info that I found out from this conference, in 2018 and 19, fiber slowed down significantly. They didn't expand it much. In 2020, they started rolling it out again, and then the demand for the product blew up. They talked about that in the conference last night. The demand is crazy for this product. It's the most highest rated satisfactory product AT&T has right now, is the fiber product. And this year they want to invest aggressively enough to touch 3 million households. That's a lot. So is that necessarily a good thing or a bad thing? Well, it's a good thing, I think, across the board. But does that mean they're going to carve out some CapEx, some significant CapEx from the 2021 billion that they set out to spend. Yes, I think they likely carve 4 to 5 billion, if not a little more, for this fiber expansion. It's a massive one this year. It's very massive. At the end of this, they want to be in 14 million households with their fiber. So last year, just to give you some numbers, they penetrated 28% of their footprint with fiber. That was in Q1 of 2020. The end of Q4 2020, they got to 32%. And that was at a slower rate that they were expanding the product. Now, this year, I'm expecting it to get a little over 40%, starting from Q1 until the end of Q4 this year. So they're going to work their way through it. Does that mean that fiber will be continued to be invested in? Yes, I think it does. They want to eventually get to the 50%, 60%, to the 70%, but will it be a lot slower? I believe so. I do believe at some point it's going to be slower because they're going to focus on wireless and they're going to focus on incorporating the C-band. So also, just to put this in perspective, as we speak about Friday, the analyst day, people had questioned, and me myself, I questioned, was 80 megahertz going to be enough for AT&T nationwide C-band? Did they spend enough to get enough spectrum to get them over the hump? So I was thinking, okay, from a performance metric, T-Mobile and Verizon are just going to be able to do more. When AT&T taps out at 80 megahertz of speed, even with great backhaul, Verizon will be able to go to 100, 120, 140, 160, 180, in some markets 200. Same with T-Mobile. In some of the markets where it's not fragmented, they can go 120, 140, 160. So it's just a performance standard that Verizon and T-Mobile can push for faster speeds in that environment versus AT&T. But you got to put it into perspective. The spectrum that Verizon just bought and the spectrum that T-Mobile already owns, they are looking to monetize home internet using that spectrum, which is fine. But it is going to significantly lower the performance because that spectrum is now not only used for wireless, it's also used for the home internet. Yes, home internet may be a lower priority scale versus the wireless user, but it's still going to add users to the bandwidth. So it's not going to be as fast as it potentially can be. And yes, I know Verizon is going to use millimeter wave included in that, but trust me, once they scale C-band and they see, okay, this is 2 to 3 mile reach, maybe even more. It's very easy to get it into neighborhoods and apartments that don't have choice a lot faster than they would with millimeter wave. They're going to offer home internet using C-band. They're going to do a very similar strategic plan as T-Mobile. They're going to give you a router, and then you'll be connected to the Verizon wireless internet over the wireless network. So putting that into perspective, AT&T is not using any of that spectrum for home internet. They got fiber and UVerse out there. Why would they all of a sudden compete against their own product? Maybe in some newly built neighborhoods and some rural towns where they don't necessarily want to pay the cost to deploy fiber, they may use that in those areas. But in mid-sized cities and urban environments, AT&T is not using. They're not going to use that spectrum for home internet. They're just not, because they have a fiber product and they have a UVerse product. That UVerse product is going to each year increase to be more and more fiber. At some point, their entire footprint is going to be 100% optical fiber. But putting it into perspective, as I mentioned, AT&T not using any of that 80 megahertz of spectrum for anything else but wireless could lead them to meet the performance delta of T-Mobile and Verizon that have more spectrum, because their spectrum is going to be tied into what I believe is a very heavy portion of home internet. I think both will track the neighborhoods and the zip codes that they want to bring the services into, but they are going to limit the amount of households that can get the service. But even if it's an additional 200 devices that tie into the network, it's going to bring it down. It's going to get slower. It's not going to be able to hit the peak speeds that it would if home internet was not in use. So just keep that in mind to kind of put that in perspective. I think AT&T will be able to meet and hit standard delta, performance delta with T-Mobile and Verizon, because they're not going to use those airwaves on a larger scale for home internet. They're just not. They're not going to compete against their own product. They would rather invest in getting fiber into those apartment complexes, neighborhoods, and then just take in the revenue from all those new fiber customers. They're growing on that segment. That business segment for AT&T is growing like wildfire, and the demand is so high. If a lot of those neighborhoods or a lot of cities had the fiber, they would be growing even more. If I had to take a guess, I think that 200,000-300,000 that they've gained these last few quarters, I think that would go to 500,000-600,000 if they had a bigger footprint. That's just my opinion, but I think the demand is showing that. So I just wanted to make this last video because tomorrow at 6 Eastern time, it starts the 3-day investor days or analyst days for all the carriers. So I just wanted to get this last video out with about AT&T. And again, I do still stand by my opinion. I still think they are the best positioned to handle and take care of what they need to in terms of debt and growing revenue and getting more into the deeper into the business relationships with fiber business and business customers. I think they can take great care of that. And in the meantime, while they're proactive on pretty much being on the offensive side, they will also still look to lean out the company and sell off some of the non-core assets. So that'll all be ongoing in the background. That won't slow down. They will continue doing that. So they will definitely be a better company this same time next year and then the following year after that. The network will improve. They're still in the big densification process. So that's not slowing down for them. They're continuing that. And once it's all said and done, we will see where AT&T is positioned. But right now, what T-Mobile and Verizon are trying to create, that extra monetization, AT&T already has and then some. There is not one product that T-Mobile and Verizon can bring to the market right now that'll match HBO Max because they don't own any content. T-Mobile already stated T-Vision is not a moneymaker. It's not profitable. So they're just using that to serve their customer base. AT&T is going to make big headwind with HBO Max. They can play around with that. They can create it for free with ads. I mean, it's going global. I mean, there's the possibilities are endless with HBO Max. So let me know what you think about this in the AT&T. I mean, in the description down below, how you feel about AT&T and what they're going to present, talk about on Friday, and how do you feel about the company in the future. So let me know that in the comment section down below. If you have been on the channel or you're new to the channel and you have not yet liked, shared, subscribed, to make sure you do so. Hit the notification bell so you are notified when I do upload content. Make sure to follow the social media outlets for more updates and interactions. And this is Tyrone with Tech Life. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.